15 wins with just 2 losses and 1 draw. The first woman to win the British Boxing Board of Control Boxer of the Year award, who made history in China in 2012, and the first woman to compete in GB boxing. Join me as I sit down with a 2-time unified super welterweight world champion who has won 4 world titles at 2 weight classes, as we journey through the start of her career and how she got to where she is today.
Natasha Jonas!
I'm so glad we're able to go ahead and actually have this interview finally in Liverpool. This is actually my first time in Liverpool. I haven't been able to invest.
Best city in the world, I'm still
I
alive.
haven't explored it, but I love the Scousers accent. How has it been growing up in Liverpool?
It's just home. I mean, we have, like anywhere in any big city, we have our good, bad, and ugly. But for me, it's home, and I think we are very unique in the way we talk, how we present ourselves to the rest of the nation. And yeah, I love being. I'm genuinely proud of being a Scouse, and I love Liverpool.
Yeah.
I think whether people are going to definitely comment, but I think it's the best city in the world.
That's fair. I think that's fair. I think wherever you grow up and where you live, you're always going to think that's the best because that's home to you. Your home is always the best. So I agree. So you grew up in a big family. You was the oldest out of all the girls, and you grew up with 2 older cousins also. So how was it growing up with a really big family?
I mean, I don't know any different. So, there's a well-known fact that there's 2 Jonases born every year. And I was 3 years down the line, so I've got a few older cousins, but there was 2 older boy cousins that live with me. My mum was very young when she had me. So we grew up in a house with my nan, and some of my cousins lived there as well. And, kind of doing the things, growing up with 2 boys, you kind of just do the things that boys do.
Yeah.
And, we're talking back in the 80s, I was allowed, wherever the boys went, I was allowed to go. So they had to take me out, tag along.
Yeah.
I remember going around the corner for the first time and having a game of football. And you know what lads are like? Lads pick the best players and then pick the best friends. Now, one of my cousins was really good at football. The other one was terrible. And he got picked before me, and I was like, there's no way that he should be getting picked before me. And I was like to myself, no, next time I come down this corner, I'm getting picked before him.
Yeah.
And I have made that my mission. So I've always been competitive. And they, trying to compete with boys as is something that's just natural to me. And I was probably considered what you'd call maybe back in the day a bit of a tomboy.
Yeah.
And yeah, our family's very sporty. We've got football players, bodybuilders, people that have represented Great Britain in karate, boxing, so we are a really sporty family, and most of all, we're just a very supportive family.
It's lovely.
Yeah, no dream was too big.
Yeah.
And the family still now, with my little girl and stuff, I find it weird that people don't have a support system, and you do need a good support system, especially if you're going to be, at the top of your field, whether that's business, whether that's sport, whatever that is. And my family's the biggest support system I've got. And it's just the strongest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very proud to be Scouse and a Jonas.
Oh, lovely. 2 in 1. And even though you guys have all grown up now, do you guys still play sports? Do you guys is it still competitive?
Everything in our family is a competition. Everything. The idea of a Jonas kid, your biggest moment is when you beat the adult. When you beat your parents, that's when you've got your rite of passage, and that still continues. My little girl barely wins on anything that we do.
And you guys don't let her win?
No, not at all. She's going to learn. She's going to learn the hard way, whether she likes it or not. There's a thing that comes from disappointment that, you have lack of, you've a bit of resilience.
Yeah.
But yeah, but this is a perfect example of what we're like. After lockdown, we was allowed to finally be together and, join families. We went out and played a 5-hour game of football. And literally, we had a 10-minute water break in between that. And as it started off as a five-a-side of, the adults versus their kids in the team. And then people on the phone and we're like, oh, we're proud I'm playing football. It ended up about a 22-a-side game.
Wow.
And there was grown adults tackling kids. Like, it was the Premier League, like everything went. And that's just like as symbolic of who we are and what we're about.
That's amazing. And so I've read that you first watched the Olympics when you was 4 years old. I know that was a very long time ago, but do you remember how you felt when you watched it, or what you thought when you watched it at the time?
Yeah, I don't really remember the whole scenario. It was my mum that told me afterwards, after 2012. But she said that I was just amazed by all the sport that on the TV at once. So, like I say, we are a very sporty family. We've always encouraged to be active and not be hanging around and trying to not do anything negative. So we was always pushed into whatever club. Every day of the week I had something on, whether it was football, Thai boxing, netball, rounders, whatever it was, I had to do something.
Yeah.
And yeah, because all these sports were happening in one place at one time.
Right.
You said that was just amazing. I was like, what is it? What is it?
I've also read that, like, you said that you wasn't academically the best, but you did excel in PE. So would you say that's when you found your love for sport in school, or was it more when you was active outside of school?
Probably a little bit of mix of both. The old nature versus nurture argument. I think it was a mixture of both. And I think with the academics, it wasn't that I couldn't do it. I just didn't apply myself the same way I applied myself to sport. And I was never given praise or anything but sport. So for me, I always felt like it was the only thing I could do. But when I needed to be academic to get a scholarship and go to America, that's when I applied the sport and brain and, the mischievous attitude to education. And then I got the results that I needed. So it was never that I couldn't do it. I just didn't apply myself because I didn't believe I could.
Fine. And did you feel like you could only apply yourself to sports, and then when you got the results, that's when you was like, please? But did you ever think that maybe I could apply it to like other things in schools, in schools or anything else?
To be honest, it was one teacher that changed my whole outlook on the way I thought about the academics and the school side of stuff. And still to this day, it was my PE teacher. Still to this day, she comes to me fights and we have a good relationship, and I go into schools and give talks about that interaction that we had, because it was really important. And it did, like I say, change my life. It was a pivotal moment. She could never ever choose me as team captain, and it used to wind me up. I would literally do every single sport the school offered, and if I'd never tried it, I'd still do it and give 110%. And she'd never choose me. And I was like, why doesn't she choose me? And when I finally plucked up the courage and she'd not chose me to be like, I think it was the netball captain or something, I'd lost it. And I was like, right, I'm going to ask her why. And she said, like, outside of, like, I can give you anything in that's sports related. You always give me 100%. You're there, you're first one there, last one to leave. Make sure everyone's, done the warm up, done the cool down. I can 100% trust you. Choose fair teams and like just everything that you'd want. I know that you'll give a positive attitude to and be good. But outside the PE, all you do is mess around. At the time, I was on report for my behaviour. I was nearly getting suspended because I was just giving tics to teachers. I was getting sent out to lessons constantly. And she was like, that's not the kind of example I want my captain to set. You're a leader. You're going to be captain. There's lots of qualities I need to see in you outside, and I'm not seeing that. And that hurt me more than any detention ever could. And she was the first person that I opened up to. And I told her I was struggling in school. I'd come from Liverpool over to the Wirral. The demographics of the two cities are totally different. I was born in Toxteth here, very multicultural, a mix of different types of ethnicity of people. And then I went to with the Wirral, which is predominantly white. And it didn't really know how to deal with that. Not only that, like I said, there's two, but Jonas was born every year. When I'm in primary school, there's two people in every year that's related to me. I moved to the Wirral, and the first time in my life I'm on my own. In Liverpool, like the kind of academic side of things, in my perspective as a kid, wasn't very highly thought of, so I didn't try. So when I went to Wirral, I realised how far behind I was. So to hide that shame that I didn't want anybody else to know, I just used to act out in class to get sent out. But then I wouldn't have to answer the question. I wouldn't have to do the work. And like, it was masking the fact that I was struggling academically. And when I had that conversation with that teacher, she made all the other teachers secretly give me extra seconds to be able to catch up. And that was the confidence that I needed. So I still wasn't great. I'm not going to say I was a great student, or like I was still the maths teacher's nightmare. But I was a bit more confident to be able to sit in a lesson and be able to do the work, which I wasn't before.
Amazing. That's really lovely. I was so adamant to have this interview with you because I genuinely think you have accomplished so much. And even if you don't want to be a boxer, but it can give you enough inspiration to be like, I can actually go forward and I can actually make this happen. I'm going to read some of his accomplishments. 15 wins with just 2 losses and 1 draw. First woman to win the British Boxing Board of Control Boxer of the Year award. So you made history in China in 2012 when you reached the semi-finals of the Women's World Boxing Championships, and to become the first ever female British boxer to qualify for an Olympic Games. You then took bronze medal place in the 2012 London Olympics back to Liverpool with you. In the same year, you claimed gold in 2019 Women's European Union Amateur Boxing Champions, and you were the first woman to compete in the GB boxing. You won gold in the GB Amateur Boxing Champions and the first Black woman to obtain a boxing manager license. And I think, you see that phrase where it says, she's an icon, she's a legend, as she used to describe you. And then when you think back at all of that, what do your accomplishments mean to you?
Do you know what? Do you know what's sad is that it takes for you to get past them and look back is only when you're ever grateful.
Yeah.
And at the time, I'm just a boxer trying to win the next fight, win the next tournament, win the next stage. You know, you're always, that's the athlete in you, is always looking to get to the, you know, what your aim is. Once you've achieved it, okay, that wasn't big enough, and I need to move to the next one and move to the next one.
Yeah.
So you don't ever stop until it's too late to look back and think, look how far we've come.
Yeah. Have you had that moment where you've been able to look back and be like, wow, this is how far I've come, and I've actually been able to accomplish this, and I've actually done this? Have you had that moment?
Not necessarily as a pro, but I do definitely look back on my amateur career, and I remember messaging all like Joe Joyce and Fraser Clark in the 2016 and the 2021 Olympics team, and we're saying like, please don't forget to enjoy the moment. I remember one of the people I was working with, Marty at the time, he was saying, do a video diary. And every day I used to get up and go, it's Sasha, I've qualified, I feel great. And I hated it. Like, you can see how bored I am when when I look back and look at the video diary. But then as I got selected, I'm like, I've just been selected. And then I went and I'm like, I've just won my first fight. And then I've qualified. You know, when I look back now, I'm getting all like hairs on my neck now. Like, I look back and I remember how I felt. And I was saying to that, like I was kind of say to them, it is important that you've trained. When you sign up to an Olympics, you sign up for 4 years. That's a lot of dedication, you know, sacrifices and everything else. But don't forget to remember, like, you started as an amateur in this gym, and look where you are, and like, enjoy the moment, because the moment is just as important as, you know, getting the results and being there. Do you know what I mean?
Do you still have those videos?
I do, yeah. I've got them somewhere. I'll have to lift them up. But yeah, it was, it's so cringy. I'm like, 300 something days out from the Olympics, and then you can see the excitement build as I get selected, as I go through the qualify, as I qualify, as I'm coming into the thing, And one of my best memories of the Olympics, obviously the fighting and stuff, but as I as we walked in to 2012 at London, you know, with a home nation, so we walk in last, and we're filming, and you know, we're supposed to be in rows of 10, 1 meter behind the row in front. That never happened. As soon as we got in, everyone was just like, as you would. But then everyone was like taking pictures. I was thinking, like, I know I'm an Olympian, but like, everyone, like all the other countries take a picture, and then me, wow, I must be like something. And then someone went to me, oh, scoot out the way. And then when I looked behind me, there was LeBron James and Kobe Bryant behind me. And I was like, come with me, and he was like, can we get a picture? You're like, yeah, yeah. So we got pictures with them. So I got pictures with all huge stars like that. And I was like, they're people who I look up to, and to be in the same circle and sitting at breakfast with like Usain Bolt.
Yeah.
It was just like, it's just mad. Even like the likes of like, we train with Jess Ennis, so she was a little bit different because we've seen her all the time in Sheffield. But like Chris Hoy, he was the team GB captain.
Yeah.
Used to come into the lift every morning. Morning, Tasha. I was like, morning, Chris. And it was just so mad.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
And you describe boxing as a really good mistake because you was actually on your way to pursuing a career in football, but then you had to stop due to an injury. So do you think you and boxing kind of made its way to each other, or do you feel like at any point you should have maybe pivoted to boxing?
I wasn't brand new to punching, and every Jonas has to go through the karate route. Just for me, uncle's like a seventh dan in Shotokan, so we've all gone through that route. That's just discipline, you know, the dedication, commitment, and all that. So we've all done that. So I wasn't brand new to it, but it was definitely. And I used to like watching professional boxing. That like was kind of mine and my dad's thing, but I never thought I would ever do it.
Yeah.
I always just enjoyed. I love every sport. I'm that weird person that sits up till 3 o'clock in the morning watching bowls in the Olympics, or you know, curling or whatever, or darts, snooker, everything. I just love everything. So, probably to find another sport wasn't unusual, but I never thought it would be boxing.
Yeah. And so the first time you entered a boxing gym when you was 20 years old. So was it due to like that background of like karate that made you go into a boxing gym, or was you just curious, or did you think, let me just try this out?
No. So what happened was when I came home from America, like I was like, there was a huge, massive party for me because I was one of the first people in my family to go to university. So everyone was dead proud. And like, I'd set my sights on being a professional footballer at that time. We're talking early 2000s. Like, the American team was professional. They did make a career out of it. There was a lady called Mia Hamm, who was the first woman to get £1 million sponsorship deal from Nike. And I kind of watched the World Cup after America won. I was like, oh, I'm better than that. Like, if I get to America, I can be Mia Hamm. I'll have a house like they do on Cribs. So, you know, I'll buy this Bentley. I was buying me Nana a house. I'd already spent this £1 million that I haven't got. And when I went there, and it was all of them things. Then, you know, if you do get the opportunity to go, take the opportunity. And I never regret taking that opportunity. But obviously it didn't work out. And when I come back, I was so low because I felt like I'd let everybody down because I wasn't that person. And in fact, I was back to my nan's. I was 20 years old, and I had no vision of what was coming next. Because all my life I'd done some form of sport at like a high level. So it was like, okay, now I have to go and be in the real world and go and get a job. And I just wasn't motivated at all to do that because that wasn't my thing. It wasn't where I wanted to be. I was just doing it as a means to get by. And then I got sacked from my 7th job in 1 year because I was that terrible of an employee that I asked my uncle for his keys. So the same uncle that does me karate, he's got his own gym, and it's got like a running machine, free weights, and a punching bag. And he used to go in the gym, hit the bag, you know, do a little run, do a bit of weights, and go, because I needed to get myself back into something. I've just hit an all-time low. And there was a woman, it was in a bit of a rough part of Liverpool. So there was a woman that used to watch the gym for him. And she seen me going in and out a few times. And she was like, oh, I've just started a women's only night at the Rotunda here. local boxing thing. Why don't you come along? And I was like, I don't really want to box. But I didn't want to tell her. I was like, "Oh, okay, we'll try it." And I just never used to go. And every time I'd go to my uncle's gym, she'd be there like, "I love you, and come. I thought you was going to come." And after months and months of doing that, I thought, "Oh, I can't keep bobbing this woman off. I'm just going to have to go." When she asked me the next time, I'll say, "I don't like her, I'm not going back." But I'll have to go. And I went. And that was 20 years ago. And I've literally never looked back. Like part of the furniture in this club.
That's amazing. So this is the club that you actually started out in, and this is where we're doing the interview right now.
Yeah. This is the honest club, the home of champions, as it says.
Yeah, definitely.
You see all the decorations. I'll show you some of my tops, plaques.
Oh, I'd love to.
Yeah.
Absolutely love to. When you started off, was there many women who were also training at that same time?
So I started off in a women's class, which was just like a keep fit kind of session. And then Sylvia, who was my first trainer, she was like, "Well, I actually think you're good enough to have a fight if you want to. So, but if you do that, you'll have to come to the lads session." So I was like, I kind of knew what it took to be an athlete, even though I never envisaged it would be what it is now.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not really scared. I'm 21. I've done stuff before. Let's go. I was like, yeah, put me in. And then I started coming to the lad session. And for a very, very, very long time, I was the only girl for years.
Wow. And that didn't put you off at all? So it did make you feel like, okay, I need to probably find somewhere else where there are more women?
No, I think because I've always been comfortable around lads, I just didn't feel out of place.
Yeah.
But, walking in for that first session, you have all these stereotypes and you have these anxieties about what it's going to be like. And I did have all them because I was thinking it's going to be like being that little girl playing football again. And everyone, in boxing, you come in, you do your warm up, then everyone gets into base, you do a bit of tech, then you go on to the bags, and which is individual. But I was thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be that little girl. No one's going to want to be my partner. No one's going to want to. And that was the bit that got me. But then Liam Smith, who was like, at the time was one of the, well thought of and still is former world champion. The first day he was like, Mick said, everyone get into partners. And I was like, and everyone was like, and Liam went, I'll go with you. And that small, tiny gesture, he doesn't realise how big it was. But that like kind of dispelled anything. And then from then on, no one was really bothered with it.
Oh, nice. And was you bothered after then, or was you?
No, it was just that anxiety of like, oh, I'm going to be the last one picked. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I felt like that little girl again playing football.
Do you think like then, I think you've kind of touched on this, but do you think the fact that you've trained, like when you first started and you was training mostly with men, that actually helped propel you to get you to where you are and in your career?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, again, just being comfortable around men in men's spaces and not feel like, and I think sometimes just you have all these fears and thoughts and whatever that like the gym or the boxing gym or whatever's going to be, but when you actually go, it's not really like that. So it kind of dispels all them things that I thought it was going to be like. It really wasn't.
Yeah.
And now, like I say, I'm literally part of the furniture in here. So, yeah, it was just kind of dispelling the myths for myself that got me comfortable. And then when I hate to say this, but I soon just became one of the lads, and then I didn't literally do anything different in amateurs or when I started. The men's and the female rounds and everything was the same. So, all the runs that the lads did, I was a little bit slower, but I did it.
Yeah.
Every session that was written up on the board, I did.
Yeah.
I never got out of anything. And when you are training with the lads who are that little bit before that pushes you, because no one wants to be the last one.
Yeah.
So and when you start sparring, you're like eating jabs and stuff. You're like, right, that's not going to happen again. You get better. So again, but that's the same for everyone, not just female, but everyone.
Yeah. And I read that you found it really difficult, like retiring from the amateurs. So at that point where you thought you was going to retire, or you did retire, to actually now going professional, what was the switch that made you thought, no, I can't, I don't want to stop, I can't stop, I got to get back?
So I retired from the amateurs because I'd snapped a ligament to my toe in the Commonwealth Games, and it basically meant I could have the choice of not repairing it, and it could affect me in later life, or I would repair it, and it would I'd missed the qualifier for Rio, and I thought, as much as I love boxing, I'm going to need my toe. So I got it repaired, which meant I missed the qualifier, and that meant like I knew. Well, I didn't think I'd ever still be boxing in 2020. So I thought, right, I made the tough decision to retire. As I retired, I thought, right, now's the time, perfect time to start a family, and I had my little girl. After 2021, I think Katie Taylor turned professional, and there was all of a sudden a big hype around, female boxing and, who's going to be a rival. And I got a phone call from Tom. I'd done some commentary for Sky on that night on her debut. And then Tom, who was the Team GB boxing captain in 2012, phoned me. I was like, I've just seen you on Sky, you did a really good job. And it's like, Tash, wouldn't you think about coming back? I think there'll be big opportunities. And I was like, shut up, Tom. I'd been out of boxing 2.5 years, I think, at this time. I was good, maybe 2 stone over what my boxing weight was. I was, kind of in the mum role, and was happy. Like, I was working self-employed, and I was happy to do what I was doing to, again, just get by. I was like, shut up, Tom, put the phone down. And then it started playing on my mind, and I was like, no, actually, what is stopping me? Fitness, you'll always get it back. You think, it's just about working hard. You're going to get that back. You know how to work hard. The baby, it's not. I phoned my mum. She was like, if you're going to be 100% committed, don't worry about the baby. So phone my cousin, and I phone these people because they see the horrible side of boxing. No one sees. Everyone saw when I win and I'm smiling, and I'm like, yes. But then no one sees that I cried for 2 days after I lost the Katie. So they're the people that see the ugly side, and the times I didn't get to be the bride of honour in my own cousin's wedding because I was training for a competition. Or just the hard bits of the sport when you lose or you don't get selected or whatever. So they were like, look, as long you know how hard this journey is going to be, as long as you're committed, we've got the baby, don't worry about that. So then I phoned Tom back, and I was like, Tom, what do we need to do? He's like, find yourself a manager, find yourself a trainer. And then I was thinking about all the good managers and trainers in the UK at the time. And, I was thinking, Rob was our head of Team VB boxing, who was also a pro coach at the time. I thought, if he does that, I'll have to go and live in Sheffield. I don't really want to uproot to Sheffield. As there was a couple of other trainers, Tony Sims was like, he's in London, don't really want to do that. One in Wales, I was thinking, don't really want to have him commute. And then I thought, like, who has took someone from maybe not being beyond what people thought they could achieve? I thought, Joe. So I messaged Joe, and he was like, I'm just away at the moment, but let's speak when I get back. And it's 2017. We all look back since.
Amazing. And how have you found, like, being a mum and, like, progressing in your boxing career? How have you, like, been able to navigate both?
I think the first thing that I noticed was, like, every mum, every working mum struggles with time and balancing the work life, like, kind of thingy. So I wasn't on my own. And what's weird, in my friendship group, we've all got kids 4 months apart. So everything that I was experiencing, there was 3 mums ahead of me that had already been through it.
That sounds like so planned, all perfect.
I know it does,
so perfect.
It wasn't. It just so happened that everyone just did. So, like, when I was saying, like, I feel like I'm, I was picking it up. I was dropping it off to nursery at like 9 o'clock. Then I was going to Manchester training. I'd get back at like 1 o'clock. Go and do another session at 2 o'clock. Finished in that session like 3, 4 o'clock. And then going to pick it up at 5 o'clock. And then 5 o'clock, I was like, 1, I'm tired. And 2, like, you're in bed at like 6, 7 o'clock. So I didn't have much time to like feed back and spend quality time with it. And I struggled with that for a little bit.
Yeah.
But then, you know, again, when I was speaking to my mates, they were like, yeah, that's just what we do. We work 9 to 5 too. So it wasn't, I felt like I was missing out on a load of stuff, but really and truly, every mum goes through that same struggle. And then the biggest thing was psychologically. Like, I remember on GB, everything negative would stress me out to the limit. Like, if I had a bad spot, it would play on my mind for the whole week or until I got corrected that spot. If I lost in a tournament, I'd be absolutely devastated until we went to the next one. And everything was so, like, results driven. And it's got to be, because that's what you're there for.
Yeah.
But I never ever got out of it. And it played on my mind constantly. But now, as a mum, as soon as I leave the gym and open the door to my house, I'm not Miss GB anymore. I'm just Tasha.
Yeah.
And that's like the biggest thing that I've noticed is the mental switch off of being able to just leave the gym at the door
Yeah.
and like just go in and be mum.
Yeah.
And she doesn't care how your sparring goes, or she just wants to know when the dinner's going to be ready and are you going to pick her up and are you going to kiss her goodnight?
Yeah.
So, that bit I was like mentally there's a relief, but I think as well I've had to come to terms with, just because I am a mum doesn't mean I can't still pursue what Tasha loves, because mum is just a title. I just realised that there was a switch off mentally, that I could just leave the gym off the door and just be mum when I open the door.
Yeah.
And I think as well, it took me a while to realise that, you know, this, especially being a first time mum, there's so much expectation and pressure.
Yeah.
Because now you've got to make this perfect human, and you want to do everything that the books ever said. You want to do everything that the nurse and the midwife tells you.
Yeah.
You want to do everything that your nan tells you, your mum tells you, your auntie, your cousin, your best mates tell you that's a good practice. And it's so stressful. But I didn't want to lose who Tasha was.
Yeah.
I'm still, you know, mum is just the title. And she definitely gives me motivation to be and do better. But I've still got to do things that like Tasha wants to do and satisfy Tasha's hunger and, you know, Tasha's dreams and, you know, fears and conquer them. And, you know, and I think it sets a good example for her.
Yeah.
To see, like, she knows from my journey what it takes to be successful. There is going to be ups and downs. You've got to have resilience, you know, and all, like, there's good qualities that probably would never learn in school, but I've learned them through being an athlete, and hopefully I instill that in her.
Yeah. And you had your first professional fight at 33. Did you feel like coming in professionally at that age, did you feel like there was a disadvantage?
I suppose you don't have much time to get things done. But at the same time, so in the women's pro game and in the women's amateur game, because we kind of developed so late, it's the age was always older. I think even to this day, the average age of a female world champion, I think, is around 40. So it is like a kind of older sport anyway.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever grew up, to be honest. So I still feel like, I mean, I know my body can't do some of the things it used to, but I still feel like a kid at heart.
Yeah. So you don't really look at the age. That's interesting, because when I speak to a lot of, like, when I look at interviews and it's male boxers, they're like, oh, when they start in like their early 20s, they consider that as late. And then I'm like, how was that late? And then I realized, oh, because some guys start probably when they're 15 and 16 and 17 and 18. So when you go in a bit earlier and a bit later, like in your early 20s, that is considered like a bit later. But I guess not. And if you look at what you've been able to do, most definitely not. I actually want to, if we look at some of like your 5 notable fights, like in August 2020, you was the first, that was your first world title fight, which was a draw. February 2022, that's when you win the WBO Super Welter World title in only the second round. In September the 3rd, you became a unified super welterweight world champion by a 10-round unanimous decision. November the 12th, 2020, you become a unified super welterweight world champion. And in January this year, you successfully defended the IBF welterweight title. How incredible is that? Age clearly doesn't matter. You've been able to do that, and it's absolutely incredible. So, what has been your proudest accomplishment so far?
I think the best title I've got is one. But I think the qualification for the Olympics and the first world title, the WBO against Namas, they were like, they're two huge occasions, you know, to be part of the first team, and to be the first person in that team to qualify and be going to 2012, and then to have that moment with me mum, and obviously to tell me that story about when I was 4, but just to have all them things, like she was saying, like, you know, you've tried a million different sports. I knew you wanted to go to the Olympics. It's took you 24 years, 105 different sports. He said, but you know, you've worked hard. You've never give up. You've never been worried about what your friends want to do. None of my one mate plays football, but none of the others do. But I didn't care because I did. I've never been like a sheep in that way.
Yeah.
I've always known to be quite headstrong and stuck to my guns. Like, no, I'm good at sport. I want to do sport. Whether what your stereotype of me would be because of that, I didn't really care. So yeah, I stuck to my guns and I got there. So at that moment with my mum, I don't really get emotional, but I was crying.
Yeah.
And like we were both just standing there for like 5 minutes, just crying, and it was a happy cry.
It's beautiful.
But we were just like, she was just like, I'm so proud of you, and like, yeah, and then to you know, be on the Amir Khan Calbrook undercard.
Yeah.
You know, it was kind of billed as a last chance saloon for me. It was my third world title attempt, the third different weight. And if it didn't win, there was nowhere else for me to go.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And to obviously go out and win it in the second round was like, I think Sky asked me, like, how do you feel? And I was like, to be honest, I just feel relief. That's the only emotion that I had, was relief, because if I didn't do that, there was nowhere else to go. And that effectively the end of my pro career.
We've spoken a lot about your accomplishments and all that you have done, but sometimes in your journey, there are ups and downs and there are hard times also. So how do you overcome adversity?
It's definitely something that you never get used to. You have to learn about yourself. But what's weird about the downs is that, one, they make the up so much better, but two, you learn a lot about yourself in that time, and it creates a better version. I read a lot of books. I take time away from boxing. And I just, like, again, just try and do things that make me happy, but also like learn from the mistakes or whatever that was.
Yeah.
But there is, I said it in an interview yesterday, I think, or the day before. I am addicted to the feeling 2 seconds before they say, Tasha, right, you're ready, it's your turn. I'm addicted to it. That's what keeps me in boxing. That's that fight or flight. Because 10 minutes before that, there's times that if someone says, right, there's the back door, jump out of it, I'd go, okay. But that feeling of, right, it's your turn, that's what keeps me going. And it's the pursuit of that, and the pursuit of always trying to make myself better.
Yeah.
That helps me overcome the downs. But let me tell you, them downs they feel so lonely, and they are hard. And I understand why sometimes people can't get out or overcome them, because it's so hard.
Yeah.
And it's a lonely place, because your friends that aren't athletes don't really understand. You don't know in the moment what the solution is.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just tough.
Yeah.
That all your work, effort and everything else potentially at that time wasn't good enough.
Yeah. And so what is something that you have learned about yourself?
Oh God, I know that I'm a cleaner. If you've read Relentless, you'll know by Tim Grover what that is. I know that I will keep pushing myself until one, it's not fun, or two, I can't do it. So like, I won't stop until I've found my ceiling.
Yeah. And you've had 2 losses. Which one hurt the most?
Oh, the Vivian open off by a million miles. Like,
I thought you was going to say Katie Taylor.
no. Katie Taylor was kind of, no one, like I say, no one wants to lose, but I don't think no one expected me to win anyway. The fact that it was a good fight and close was a bonus to everybody else, because I remember reading things saying she'll stop it in 2, she won't see the end, she'll do this, she's too quick, she's too this. Tasha's not the boxer she was, and I remember reading them things and thinking, okay, we'll see. But the open off one, she was like the little step up, and it was so early on in my journey. It was I got stopped, which has never happened.
Yeah.
And like, that was the point where I thought, actually, are these people right? Have I still got it? Am I too old? Can I not box like her? And you start believing what you're seeing. And again, it's a process of going through that.
When you first hit the canvas, that was your first time going down, right?
Yeah.
I believe it was in the 2nd or the 3rd round. What went through your mind in that moment? Do you remember?
There was literally one shot that I knew she had, and it was an overhand backhand. That was the shot. And we'd kind of learned on protecting it and going. And she hit me with it. And then now I know that it'd probably take a little bit longer to get up, so I'd recovered. But I was so frustrated that I jumped up and I hadn't recovered. And then, because I was annoyed, I was reacting emotionally instead of reacting, sensibly with boxing IQ and and then the more I was trying to fight with emotions, the more I was getting caught, and that was annoying me even more. So yeah, that in itself was a learning curve.
Yeah.
Because one, as like I say, it never happened. So like I said, now I know that it'd probably take a little bit longer. I'd probably spit me gummy out and have a bit of extra time. There's tricks in the books that you learn. I think they're smart. Their IQs up there. But I had to go through that to know that.
Yeah.
And I don't want that to happen again.
What do you actually fight for?
I remember being a little girl, and I had so much to say, and I wasn't confident enough to say it.
Yeah.
I didn't think that anyone wanted to hear it, and there was no people that looked like me, like that I could relate to. And like, now I realize I do have a platform, I do have a voice, and I try and use that as positively as I can. But I also try and be that person that little Tasha needed to see.
Yeah.
So that's why I fight.
And what's something that's different in women's boxing, like from when you started to where we are today? What's something that's like that you're happy to see that's of the change?
I think the inclusion from the increase in the sport, even in the amateur side, from the grassroots up, has been, exponential.
Yeah.
Like I said, for a very long time, I was the only young girl in here. I come back now to the classes, and there's maybe 10 in all different stages of, being a novice, being a junior, to being like an elite senior.
Yeah.
So to see that is brilliant. To see the increase in the women's categories in the Olympic Games, brilliant. To see that opportunity to then go pro in this country. It's always been in other countries, the Nordic countries and America, you could always do it, but it wasn't so big here. To be able to have that opportunity to think, I actually want to go now.
Yeah.
Huge. Platforms to insist on having women's fighters like your Skies, like your TNTs, like the Zones. That's huge for our sport, because the insistence of that means that every promoter has to then have good females.
Yeah.
I think the growth, and every Olympics you'll get a crop that'll turn over, and that'll only make the sport bigger and better.
Yeah.
And the competition viable, because a lot of the talk now is that okay, it's great, but there's only a couple in each thing that can do it. But as that grows, it'll become just as good as the men's. And I think, you know, we're still not on parity with money and stuff. And I get the arguments either way with that. But like to see that go better. But if you ask Jane Couch about her experiences, you ask me about mine, and then you ask someone in 10 years about theirs, hopefully there's, you know, an increase on what it is. And that's the way sport should be. It shouldn't ever stand still. It should always, you know, move with the times and get better for the, you know, there's a lot of doors that we had to break down in order for the girls behind us to just be able to walk through. And hopefully we did that.
To end this interview, I just want to ask you, who would you like the next fight with? Who would you like a rematch with? And who would you like to spar with?
Gosh, I think all of them are Katie Taylor. Next match is anybody. I think Habazan is probably a good choice for me. Brackhouse is another good choice for me. One's got a WBC at my weight. The other one's like a living legend of boxing and has a great profile. I think rematch definitely Katie. She beat me like 2 or 3 times now, and I need to get revenge.
Yeah.
And yeah, be able to walk away with my chest out there. And spar. Ooh. Gosh. Anyone. Not bothered about anyone.
Yeah. Nice. Well, thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for having me.
I remember coming in, bearing in mind, you're probably up to about here.
Yeah.
And I was just reading it, I was thinking, Smith, very Smith. Thinking, I'm going to have more things than me, Smith. I never quite achieved that, but I have got a couple.
You do. I've even noticed a few here, just by walking past. This is incredible. Is there more women on here, or is it just...
I think Olivia's got a few.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if Lauren's got one. But yeah, I got an extra big one as well for being put on the Olympics.
It's so amazing.
But yeah, I tried to catch up to the Smiths, but I never did. There's a few here.
Incredible. So it must be such like a proud feeling, like this is the place that you started, you come in here, you train here, and then now like you've accomplished things, and now like your name's like, okay, like I can't get over how much of an accomplishment like this must feel. Being able to see it.
Again, it's only when you look back that you appreciate it. But I do come on, like I still come to the amateur club shows, and like I feel like I've got my name on the board. And I remember doing one of the corners because I came back as I left the amateurs. I came back and done some training as a coach for the amateurs, and we went to one of the competitions, and the lad that we was training lost. He burst out crying. He was like, "All I wanted was my name on the board," and I was like, and I was thinking, that's how much it means to people. Just like, it's only like a small gesture just to put your name on the board, but to be, you know, with like some of the greats of this club is like, it means a lot to the kids, and like to be a part of that is huge.
It also shows like when you put in so much time, because you're coming here, you're training, like even for a fight, the prep that you do in training camp, and then to actually get something, you know, as a reward for it, or it seems like could be like a reward for it, like you put it up here, and I think that's what it is also, it's actually like having something tangible of all your hard work, your dedication, the time that you put in it, the discipline, that all that goes into it, like having something tangible and seeing it, I think that's an unmatched feeling.
You know, it is. I think as well, like people say to me, which is the most important medal that you've won?
Yeah.
And they expect it to be something to do with boxing.
Yeah.
And I've literally got this thing, I've never ever, like I've always kept it, it's in Sky actually at the minute. It's just a little trophy about that big, probably cost them 50p to make. And it was the first time we won the league with Liverpool.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I ever believed I was a winner. And like, still to this day, that little 50p, that little medal,
like that set me. That was the catalyst. That was the catalyst of being addicted to women.
Thank you so much for showing me around.
No, nice one.